Hi, I'm Helena from alphakoreanclass. Are you ready to know about scary Korean movies? Then let's talk about it. Okay, currently I'm making contents about Korean culture for a month, and this time I prepared 5 scary Korean movies for the Halloween seasons. Before we start, let me tell you a few things you need to know. First, I chose the movie I watched. So let me tell you my personal taste about movies. I really like Korean movies and I watch at least one movie a week. I try to find all the movies that have become hot in Korea. But I think I can't say I enjoy watching scary movies. That's why I only watch scary movies that are considered well made in the film industry or community. Second, I'd like to introduce the scariest movies step by step. So, the first movie I will introduce is the most comfortable movie, I think. In other words, it's a movie that anyone can enjoy, even if you don't like scary movies. So, from the next movie, the intensity of fear and brutality is getting stronger. Therefore, the last movie is the scariest and most cruel. Because of that, I think you can consider the scary level of the movie you will watch in advance. Third, this rank is a mixture of genre movies such as crime thriller, occult, and horror. So technically, it's not a 100% horror movie, but I selected a movie that I felt was scary. Now, smash the like buttons and subscribe to this channel if you didn't. Then let's get started. Are you interested in more Korean movies? Then check out the top 10 Korean movies related to modern history. Even if I speak in Korean, you can read subtitles in English. Have you seen director Bong Joon-ho's Parasite? If you like that, I recommend you to watch this movie. Personally, it was the most interesting movie I've ever seen by director Bong Joon-ho. It's 살인의 추억, Memories of Mother. This movie was inspired by the real incidents that took place at 화성군 in around 1986 to 91. I know there is a movie called Zodiac based on actual murders in California, right? I saw that movie too. The two films are similar in that they are based on actual murder cases. But there's a difference. I felt like Zodiac described the murder as cold and structural, but the memories of murder were close as like you were a part of it. So when looking at the detectives chasing a serial killer, you'll feel the real emotions, despair and rage with them. Next, there was a big change outside the movie. This case has remained unsolved for more than 30 years since the 1980s. However, on September 18, 2019, the police identified the prime suspect in the nation's most infamous serial killer case by DNA analysis technology. And about 15 days later, Lee Chun-jae confessed to 화성 serial murder after 33 years. Including the additional case he confessed at the time, he said he committed a total of 14 murders, 19 rapes, and 15 attempt cases over the past 7 years. He shocked people by saying that he committed the crime without thinking, and he saw the memories of murder, but he didn't feel anything resonated. He is now in prison for life for the rape and murder of his wife's sister in 1994, and he will not be punished as the statute of limitation of the Hwasong case expired in April 26. Memories of Murder topped the box office among the movies released in 2023 and were welcomed by both audience and critics at the time. Even though it's a thriller that is dark, perverted, violent, it is also very funny and humorous. So I can say this is a movie which you have to watch at least once in your lifetime. The next movie I want to recommend is A Tale of Two Sisters, 장화홍련. This movie is famous for attracting the largest audience among horror movies released in Korea so far. This movie is based on a traditional fairy tale called 장화홍련, the same name. It has previously been a motif of movies 5 times and also has been a regular theme of summer special TV show which were called Hometown of Legend every year. In addition, this movie is famous for its beautiful scenes and perfect music. Director Kim Ji-yoon said in an interview that he was inspired by a picture when he first conceived the style of this movie. It was a famous painting drawing Ophelia. Like this picture, he wanted to describe the atmosphere of a girl who died beautifully and sadly surrounded by flowers to the style of his movie. Therefore, despite being a horror film, it has a very beautiful atmosphere and is expressed attractively in harmony with the story. This psychological horror might haunt you, but I would like to recommend it to everyone who likes Korean drama and Korean movies. Okay, the movie to be introduced from now on is really scary. So if you want to watch a full-scale Korean horror movie, start with this film. This movie's English title is Living Death or Possessed, and it's 불신지옥 in Korean title. That means you will go to hell if you don't believe it. As the title suggests, this movie is an occult genre. Looking up the meaning of the occult, it is said that the occult refers to exploring the spiritual phenomenon handed down in various myths, legends, folktales, and literature, and believing that there's a principle in them and using them. For Koreans, such belief can be best found in shamanism. Shamanism is sometimes treated lightly enough for most people these days, but many Koreans tend to instinctively visit shamans when they go through a hard time for an unknown reason. Even though they are Christian, many people visit shamans at the beginning of the year to see their fortune. This movie is created by mixing Christianity and shamanism in this Korean background. And this story deals with events that occur in an apartment where more than 70% of Korean lives. Not in remote villages or home like the 2 movies just I introduced. It also well organized and cannot be seen as a simple ghost story. There are no cheap shock tactics. The only scare comes from its eerie atmosphere. At the time of its release in 2009, it failed to hit the box office, but the movie was so well made that there was a rumor that the cause of failure was only because of the title. At first, I felt rejected because of the title with such a strong religious nuance too. But it won the Best Popular Actress Award, the Screenplay Award, and the Rookie Director Award, and also has the title of one of Korea's 4 well-made horror films. Why don't you take a look? The next movie is The Wailing. This movie made headlines both in Korea and abroad at the time of its release. So I think many people have heard of this movie. As a result, most people watch this movie expecting just a thriller. So did I. But let me tell you in advance, this is a really shocking and scary movie. Generally, thriller, horror, and occult are mixed. So if you like all of these genres, I strongly recommend them. Even so, if possible, don't watch it alone. In Korea, it was released under the title of 곡성, but it was Wailing in English. Only then I did know that I misunderstood the meaning of the Korean title. I thought the title was just a local name. This is because there is an area called 곡성, like Texas. As a result, people who misunderstood the title see the movie without knowing that it may be scary. From this point of view, what this title implies is just something will be happen in the countryside and we have no idea what will happen there. But it turns out that this 곡성 means a special cry made at a funeral when a person dies. If I had known in advance, I would have expected it to be scarier. But I think the director Na Hong-jin may have wanted Korean audience to misunderstood the title. All of the scenes were actually filmed in an area called 곡성. However, he used homonyms as the title of the movie. Okay, anyway, when I first watched this movie, I was speechless. In a word, I felt like I was deceived by the title, story, and actors. Director Na Hong-jin made the main characters play characters that they are opposite to the role that the Korean audience unconsciously expects. For example, Kwak Do-won, who plays the main character, played a lot of roles as a cold elite or cruel criminal in previous work. However, for the first time in this film, he appears as a coward and timid police officer. Other actors such as Hwang Jung-min and Chun Woo-hee also act against the audience expectations, adding a strange tension to the movie. I won't tell you the details because I think it would be a spoiler. This movie is a powerful horror movie that you can enjoy with great immersions. And I think this movie is a good movie in a different sense. While preparing for this video, I looked up a lot of materials, including the director's interviews, so I learned that this movie is about weak people who find it hard to tell what's right and what's wrong, or what's good and what's evil. After watching this movie again, I sympathize with the message of Na Hong-jin. But you won't be able to understand that if you are seeing it for the first time. You will be overwhelmed by the movie itself. Feel that first. The last movie is I Saw the Devil. It was the scariest and the most rare movie I've ever introduced. Is there a supernatural phenomenon in this movie? No. Do ghosts or demons come out? No. The official genre of this movie is just crime, thriller, and noir. But I chose this movie because I thought it was the scariest movie ever. But there's a devil in the title of this movie, right? Yes. There is a more devilish person than the devil. This movie deals with them in every detail. It's a cruel and ruthless movie. You will be overwhelmed by the movie the whole time you watch it, and your nerves will tingle. I was thinking about whether to choose this movie or not. It's because it can't be said to be the scariest genre, and I thought it might not be suitable for Halloween because ghosts don't appear. But the reason I picked this movie as a scariest is that I actually felt it was much scarier than the 4 movies mentioned earlier. This movie shows that the crazier serial killer is scarier than the ghost. For this video, I watched a lot of interviews explaining the psychology of serial killers. For me, I had no choice but to give up understanding them. Everyone, what is the devil? It's in this movie. And surprisingly, the film is considered one of the other masterpieces of director Kim Ji-woon by 장화홍련. However, in Korea, it's a movie that is completely divided into like and dislike because of its cruel descriptions. Later, it seems to have become more of a hot topic in the United States than in Korea. But I warn you, this movie is realistic, detailed, and cruel criminal descriptions occur very frequently. There were many scenes that I couldn't see, so I covered my eyes several times. And nevertheless, this movie can be recommended to people who like cruel criminal noir genre. But if you don't like cruel movies like me, I think it's okay not to watch this movie. I watched this video for the first time while preparing for this, and to be honest, it was painful to watch it. So I decided to introduce it at the end. Okay, today I introduced 5 scary Korean movies that are good to watch for Halloween. What do you think? Is there a movie you want to watch later? I'm so curious. What's that? Or if you have any other Korean horror movies that you like, then please let me know in the comments. Okay, then I hope you have a happy Halloween and 우리는 다음 영상에서 또 만나요. 안녕!